Thank you for being my spiritual teacher. You've really helped me a lot. You say in The Power of Now that you are here to enable the divine purpose of the universe to unfold. Could you please explain what the divine purpose of the universe is?
The universe wants to awaken consciousness. Coming into this dimension is the divine purpose, but the divine purpose is twofold. One is the universe delights in creation. It delights in creativity. It delights in creating new forms. How do I know that? Well, just look around on the planet here, the millions of life forms in the sea, on land, in the air. The universe delights in creating this multiplicity of forms, and it delights in experiencing itself through all those forms, because you are not a separate entity. It's not the case, as sometimes the egoic self believes, here's me and there's the rest of the world or the universe. Or the ego thinks that it is in the universe. It somehow suddenly appeared, fallen into this universe, and then where am I? I'm in this universe. You're not in the universe. You are the universe, the one life expressing itself through countless life forms. And there's a growing complexity in life forms. And with every experience, the universe is experiencing itself, as your life is extremely differentiated in human beings. The way in which life or the universe or the one consciousness experiences itself in this dreamlike world is extremely differentiated. So it is amazing that every human being is different. Of billions of humans on the planet, every human not only looks different, you could recognize, if you know one person out of these billions, I can't remember how many billions are on the planet now, you could recognize this person out of billions of other human beings just by looking at their face. This is how differentiated it is on the surface level already. And then every life experience, of course there are many similarities, but there's a uniqueness to every life experience. Every life experience is a world that arises and subsides. My mother's life, your mother's life, your parents' life, anybody's life, was a particular world. The way she experienced the world was very different from the way I experienced it. It's like my mother and I, and I'm just taking one example from my personal experience, seemed to inhabit completely different universes. But we were in the same place, but experiencing life in a totally different way. And the universe delights in that complexity of experience, so it wants to experience itself as form. It means, and so the forms become evolving more complex. The humans that are alive now have far greater complexity than the humans that were alive 10,000 years ago, or 50,000 years ago. Life at that time was more simple. Gather the food, gather the plants, or hunt an animal if they did that, prepare the meal, go out hunting, come back home. It's fairly simple. There wasn't the complexity of New York City, LA, freeways, and all that's behind that. The nuclear physics, whatever, and so on. And so the universe delights in that, and you are an expression of that. It wants to become conscious of itself through you. And it's doing that, attempting to do that through humans, but the universe, that one consciousness is not separate from you. You are an expression of it. But the universe also wants to know itself deeply, its own source. It wants the source realization also. So I know that because I know by looking within myself, there is an outgoing movement into creation, and there's a return movement that wants to realize itself in its essence. The universe wants both. It wants to go out and create. It also wants to realize its own essence through you. In a human life, that expresses as wanting to do things in this life, wanting to contribute to this life, wanting to create something, to make something of your life, your so-called life. It expresses as that. And the return movement, so you have the outward movement of the universe. The return movement expresses as coming totally into the present moment, stepping away from becoming into being. Becoming is the outward movement. What can I do now? I need to do something. I want to create this. I feel that there's something coming through me. I feel a piece of music wants to come through me. A book wants to be written or something, whatever. I want to do this or create this, set up this thing, business or that or whatever. And then it's this becoming, doing. But then there's another movement that says, I just want to be and be still. And this present moment, go deeply into this moment. I don't need to become anything at all. I just want to be fully who I am already and go deeply into being. So it's almost this contradictory movements. In some humans, the outward tendency is greater. In others, the inward tendency is greater. Both are necessary, and somehow both need to be there as long as you're here in a human form. Both, to some extent, will be in you, but they will be different to different degrees. Some are much more going within and to being, to the source. But I would suggest that it's not either or. There are certain spiritual traditions that look upon it as more as either or. They say, forget about the world, just realize who you are, and then you can just sit in a corner for the rest of your life and never do anything again. You don't need to. That's one way, but for us, it's finding a certain balance, which doesn't mean it needs to be totally in balance. There are very few humans who are totally balanced between the outward movement of creating and the inward movement of connecting with your inner being and the source of all life. You need to have both, so that the universe can create through you without losing itself in its creations. So you can create not from a place of egoic need, where you depend on the outcome. If I don't get that, I'll kill myself. If I don't get famous and rich, I don't know what I'll do. Not that, but a playful participation in the world of form and contributing to it, to the world of form, without losing itself in the creation and in the doing. If you become stressed, means you're losing yourself in the doing. This is more important. Then you completely forget. You become uprooted. You're no longer connected to the spaciousness, the unconditioned, the one within. So to be and do at the same time. But some humans, yes, are much more drawn to being. I call them frequency holders. They hold the frequency of being on the planet. They're not interested in creating huge things out there. They're interested in doing perhaps little things. Gardening, cooking, looking after animals, being with animals, helping humans in some capacity, helping even physical, helping humans with their bodies and so on. So they are frequency holders. They are more into being than there's some doing, but you always have to do something. You can't. But they don't put the emphasis on doing, the emphasis on being, and then they allow presence to flow into what they do, and they affect the world also very significantly. Others have a greater tendency to performing creative action. They need to go out there and become active, but their challenge is not to get lost in what they do and thinking that's all important. They forget that this is a play of form. And then there comes a seriousness and a heaviness into the doing, and they get unhappy. And when you are unhappy, whatever you create has some flavor of that unhappiness. So the divine purpose of the universe, to summarize my long explanation, is to know itself, both through the creation of form and through realization of the formless essence of all life. And that is the divine purpose of the universe, and that you are here as part of that. That's it.
Thank you.